Hey everyone. I just wanted to show off a new build that I've been working on currently again, level 88 in hardcore for Dawn of the Hunt, Path of Exile 2, playing as a Chayula Monk, which is a pretty underrated class, especially for hardcore, being that you get quite a bit of chaos resistance and defenses out of the class. And today I'm playing a Spire of the Ire, Glacial Lance Cast on Freeze Essence Drain Contagion build, with a little bit of Herald of Plague, a little bit of poison spreads, and just stacking chaos damage and cold damage. So I'll throw in a tier 15. We'll get right to work. We'll kind of show you guys what some of this looks like, and you know what, we'll even do a boss. Why not? Um, just to show you guys what it looks like. The boss DPS is probably not as high as it can be, especially since I'm rocking in hardcore. You know, I forego a lot of offensive power for defensive power. We do have about 1.7k life. It's about 5.6k energy shield. So quite a bit of energy shield here. And you'll see, it's going to take us a little while to kill some of these rares, but we'll get through it once some things start procking off here. But essentially, the premise of the build is to fire off the glacial lances, freeze your enemies, which give you your freezing build up, and that's going to then fire off an essence drain and contagion, which spreads. Oh, okay, we got some graphical errors and still need to load in here. If you game, sometimes it just takes a little while to heat on up there. But essentially, we take the Glacial Lance and we fire off a few shots. We get the freeze, we get the frenzy charge. And then once we get the frenzy charge, we can then start chucking them with our spear throw. Spear throw has a little bit of explosion at the end of it that deals chaos damage. And that's due to the spear that we're using, the Spire of Ire. Essentially, it gives us chaotic infusion. And the chaotic infusion does add some extra chaos damage into an explosion at the end, as well as the frenzy charge, giving a nice little explosion. So you end up with like a little overlapping explosion at the end for your wind throw. So if you do see that spear throw or wind throw or whatever you would call it, me just kind of chucking there, you'll kind of see some explosions. But yep, moving forward. It's kind of mainly the premise. We do use freezing mark to build up some freezes on enemies. If we do need to gather a frenzy charge, and for example, in that situation there, you can see, could probably do, much better, but it is just an average man's build, kind of the way that they want you to play the game, different combinations, things like that. This is not a one button build. This is not like your OG, like GG, let's, clear whole screens and dominate bosses. This is your meaningful combat type of build where, the DPS doesn't stretch into the hundreds of thousands or anything like that, or at least the way that I've built it, probably take the premise a lot further, but it's really simple. Cast on freeze, generate some charges, get some good explosions, get some good poisons going on, get some chaos build up with the Chayula Monk. Play your little mini game with the Chayula Monk. As you can see, there's this purple aura around me at all times, which is a breach aura. For those of you who haven't played Chayula Monk before, into the breach, every little blue orb that you see there gives me a little bit of mana leech, or essentially just counts as a leech, quote unquote, but it's just a mana regen. And then same as the red, except for that's for life. And then the purple ones give you extra chaos damage per stack. And so, it's very nice to have those. It's kind of fun once you build up enough stacks, you can start to, really fire off some big damage and some big peeps. But, without it, you're all right. You're going okay. And it's just an added little bonus to have. But for hardcore, it's actually kind of slept on, I feel like. You do receive a lot of mana back from it. You do have a nice little health pool back from it. It's very easy to kind of get those stacks built up and just feel a little comfortable playing it hardcore, just extra, that you probably wouldn't get anywhere else. So, a lot of fun here. We're just blasting, killing some of the rares and stuff, killing some of the mobs. Of course, gotta hate these boys right here. Anytime we step in the blue, get siphoned out, which is fine by me. Whatever. I'm just gonna keep Shucking along here. Single target, as you can see, could do much better. That's okay. We're just having fun with the game. And so, I'm working on a different build right now. I'm actually working on a Smith the Kataba, a quarterstaff Smith the Kataba using the wind quarterstaff skills and some bleeding mechanisms that are actually really starting to pop off, and a lot of stun build up, a lot of days build up, and area of effect and whatnot. And I think just the Smith the Katava with the fire spell on hit, and even with the new tempering weapon, Anvil is actually kind of busted. Granted, I'm in the campaign right now with that character, but whoo, my gosh. Hammering that anvil, getting a good 12 and power, explosions on top of all of your aftershocks and your AoE, clearing abilities. Typically, you're just looking at like double the damage on some of those empowered attacks. Some I'm sure as you upgrade our levels, it'll be triple the damage in some cases. We're already looking at a pretty high multiplier on that effect. So kind of slept on, but overall, Smith the Katava looks like it's going to be in a good place for that build. And I'm going to again try out to do like a spell caster hybrid. Similar to this build, I may end up using some of the equipment off of this build to get that build going. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, we're just going to have a lot of fun and just keep trying out, random builds that pop into my head. Because really, I don't do a lot of meta things. I don't like a lot of meta builds. It's fun to clear screens and, watch, everything just die in half a second and whatnot. But if I wanted that, I would go play PoE 1. Honestly, I do appreciate the vision that Jonathan and team are trying to accomplish with this game. I think that, the AKA meaningful combat, it feels good when you get your combos off. The mob types are beautifully designed in a lot of ways so that, we can have a lot of fun with it. But, if you're out here just kind of like choose your screen color of explosion, everything dies. You're an absolute god. There's no combat. It's really just about the loot, and it's about how fast you can go and how much divines per hour. Again, that's all fun and dandy. To me, that's more of like hey, let's do let's do Path of Exile 1 if we're gonna do that. I mean, because that's what's just the game's just built around that kind of arcadey feel. But this one isn't. You've got the dodge roll, you've got this type of action combat with a lot of the new character rigging that they've been able to accomplish by switching over to this kind of Path of Exile to it's the same engine, but model that they've been working on. So I do appreciate it. I do want them to continue to hear the feedback from the community and some of the ways that definitely kind of create a drag on the game. Like I guess like loot early on and the time it takes to get your character online and things like that. But I do think overall it's their game. It's early access. It's in a place where we'll have to see what the game feels, it looks like when it's fully released with all the classes and all the skills and everything, including unique items and new mechanics and potential crafting updates that they may make and so on. So it's pretty important to be a part of that and kind of see what they are going to do. And I think with the game base that they have so far, it's going to be a goodie, and I'm looking to it. So as you can see there, I kind of ran out of mana, but I was able to just keep going because the spell, disables the Sphere Throw. Sphere Throw doesn't use any mana, but then also I could just pick up some of these little blue orbs to get my mana right back. As you can see, again, the DPS is not the best for the single target, but hey, man, we get through it. 8-minute map completion on a tier 15. Looks like I missed an essence, or maybe the Calvarian expedition there, which we don't have to do for the demo. I'll just go ahead and show off kind of what the build looks like now. And yeah, we'll go over some of the skill gems and some of the items and things. So the first things first is we'll go over the skill gem setup here. We do have the Spire of Ire, so it gives us a chaotic infusion. Chaotic infusion grants weapon infusion, basically your non-melee projectile attack. So any projectile attack will consume an infusion, which is one of your frenzy charges to essentially cause it to explode at the end of its flight. So you get an infusion whenever you generate a frenzy charge, essentially. So whether that be a frenzy, well, it may be even a power charge or an endurance charge. It's any charge really. But we use frenzy charges in this build. So looking at it, we do add some area of effect to it because the explosion radius is 1.8 meters. Might as well give it a little bit of radius. For chaotic confusion, we do increase the culling effect on it as well. With culling strike, we go ahead and give us some maximum life on cull and some mana on cull. This is really just for some added benefit whenever we're firing off our spears throw. Sigil of Power, this isn't our offhand for a staff here that gives us this effect. This is just for some added spell damage, really only used on bosses and very tough rares and things like that. And it really only increases the damage of the essence drain in the setup. Spear Stab, we don't use at all. Spear Throw, we do utilize. And so for Spear Throw, we have, currently Chaos Infusion. We've got some extra Chaos damage, chance to poison, just 50-50. That's about the only poison chance that I've got. But checking this a couple times, you're bound to get a poison to proc. Bursting Plague, just to have that AoE effect on the poison and be able to spread poisons with a single Spear Throw. And then cold infusion, just for some added cold damage. If we take a look at the breakdown, we do see that it's primarily chaos damage, but we do get some cold damage there. And that's really just to kind of help out our Glacial Lance accumulate some chill bead build up and just a little bit of extra damage too here. As you can see, it throws a little bit on there for us. So anyways, this could be anything. You can put in a six socket here and do whatever you want with it, or fifth socket and do whatever you want with it. Into the Breach, very cool Chayula Monk ability here. Basically allows you to generate these little orbs, these little flames of Chayula, which are called remnants. And then our remnants basically give us all these extra effects. We've got, added chaos damage. You get life leech on the red ones, and then mana leech on the blue ones. And it's close to about 8% each. And then we do rock the magnetism, which allows our remnants to be picked up from a further distance. So you don't have to walk all the way into them. It could be a couple feet away, as you can see there, and they'll go ahead and pick them up. Now for our main damaging ability, we do have Glacial Lance. Our Glacial Lance basically is for freeze buildup. So we do try to, get as much freeze buildup as we possibly can. This is interesting within Bitter. It works really well with the Chayula Monk class because, as you can see, we do gain damage as chaos per stack, right? But this states that if you would gain extra damage of any other type, you would then instead gain as extra cold. So if we take a look at this, this sheet here, we can see our cold damage is roughly on the high end 2,800. But then if we say we go over here, we pick up a Flame of Chayula, and then we take a look at it, we can see our cold damage increases to 3,700. So each Flame of Chayula actually increases the cold damage of Glacial Lance, which increases the cold buildup modifier that we're going to get from it. Because the damage split on typically without this is actually split primarily through chaos damage. You're not going to get as much cold damage. Not as much cold damage is not enough freeze buildup. And then without the freeze buildup, you're not going to get as much frenzy charges from the combat frenzy, which we'll go over here in just a second. But anytime we do freeze an enemy, of course, we do go ahead and get added extra chaos damage as well through Ice Bite. This works through all of your skills as well. So enhances your spear throw, gives it a little bit of extra cold too, which then helps out with the cold infusion since that's already got some black cold on it. So this is really important to have this on there. And then Perpetual Charge for 35% chance to not remove the charges, but still count as using them. So anytime I generate a charge, which I have a maximum of 3, I'm not really spec'd into them at all. But if I do generate a charge, I have that chance to not consume it. And then we might be able to get a nice little double proc on our Glacial Lance. Taking a look at Combat Frenzy, we do have 50% chance to grant an additional charge. And then Combat Frenzy, of course, grants us a frenzy charge whenever we freeze electrocute pendant enemy. So very simple on that one. Now, with all of this freezing that we're doing, hopefully we're going to go ahead and start casting on freeze with some energy buildup here. We're going to cast Essence Drain, we're going to cast Contagion, and that is also going to be linked with Chaotic Freeze, so that anytime that an enemy is debuffed with these contagions, if there's any other damage over a time effects like happening on the enemies that are affected by this contagion or this essence drain, it's going to contribute to freeze buildup. So that's going to, kind of generate more freeze buildup on the Glacial Lance and on the Spear Throw, which then contributes to the cast on freeze. And then, as you can see, we end up with a nice little circle here where everything is kind of synergistic, right? And then we also have some nice clear because of that. So with the Envenom, you do end up poisoning on hit. The poison's not much, but you take the poison, especially if it's off of the explosion. The explosion's actually quite a bit more. But if you do take the poison off of the spear throw, um, and then kind of hit an enemy with this contagion or with this essence drain, it's going to spread on top of them as well. And then the essence drain is a nice little couple thousand damage per second with the contagion spread. So for white mobs, it does its job fairly well. As you can see in some of the tier 15s, it could definitely do a lot more damage. I only have it at level 20 here, and I don't really have the best of gear. But this is just kind of a proof of concept and again, some inspirational type of non-off meta, excuse me, off meta, non-meta builds. So anyways, with the cast on freeze, again, you could probably put in another socket here. If you do, I would probably put in freezing mark so that you get extra freeze build up whenever you cast on freeze. It'll freeze an enemy. You freeze them some more, freeze an enemy, freeze them some more. So you don't have to manually cast freezing mark. But anyways, that's up to you on what you want to do. For Ghost Dance, of course, just our defensive layer. We do add increased spell damage while on full energy shield, because we are actually scaling our attack through spell damage, and that's through our gear, which we'll go over later. But this is helpful. And then we've got Wind Dance, of course, for some extra evasion rating. This just helps blind enemies on hit. And then Herald of Plague for spreading some of those poisons around off of your spear throw and just giving us a little bit more clear ability here. Chaos Mastery for that, and then as you can see, we do have Freezing Mark. So hits against marked enemies just have more freeze build up, and a little bit more armor broken whenever we deal some damage to them. Though this is based off of physical damage, so it doesn't really break too much. But why not socket that in there? And then we do have a barrage on here, just so that we can throw a couple extra spears or, what have you. But we do make it to where it doesn't consume charges so that we always get the explosion on Glacial Lance, but we do get some added power benefits from it. And we get the extra 2 lances. So we're not actually repeating 5 times. At most, we're ever repeating twice, but we are getting the damage benefits from it. So that's nice. With the empowered support as well, or premeditation. This does help out with damage. And then and we have a second wind, which allows us to use it twice. And the cooldown's actually not too bad. We get both of them back pretty quickly. So, fairly simple there. All right. So that's the gem link setup. Now we'll go over the items. This does feature a Spire of Ire. This is a primarily cold damage weapon, or excuse me, a chaos damage weapon with a little bit of cold damage that I've got on it through the implicit and a little bit of physical base. But as you can see, some of its effects are pretty cool. It does have this chaotic infusion, which it comes with, which I explained earlier. And then it has the leeches of physical damage of life, and life leech recovers based on your chaos damage instead of physical damage. Now, we don't really have a whole lot of life leech in this build other than the remnants themselves, but this could be very interesting to play around as your chaos damage is now leeching instead of your physical damage. And there's actually a lot of cool leech stuff in this game right now that you can do, even with overleech to make this pretty insane. And then when you consume a charge, you trigger chaotic infusion to gain 2 chaos infusion. So like I was saying earlier, whenever you consume a charge, albeit a frenzy charge, a power charge, or endurance charge, you're going to be able to get some chaos infusions and fire those off on top of your glacial lance or on top of your spear throw. I tend to keep it spear throw just for the added explosion, but it works on both. And yeah, a little extra AoE effect, a little extra chaos damage at the end. That's all that really is. It would be cool if it had some other effect, like if it had like a mini cluster grenade effect where, it popped and it maybe popped like several times and kind of created a degen on the ground or something like that. That would be really cool. But for now, that's our weapon. We do utilize the Crown of Eyes, and this is how we get most of our damage scaling is actually increases and reductions to spell damage also applied to attacks with this item. It comes with some pretty good energy shields, some flat stats, nothing else too crazy on it. But that increases and reductions to spell damage is pretty nifty because it does, again, lets us amplify our spell damage to gather attack damage. And there's a lot of different busted builds with this helmet out currently. This one's not so busted, but it's still a lot of fun. It's the way I wanted to scale it. We do have a focus for added spell damage, plus level to all spells, a little bit of lightning res. You really don't need the spell physical damage. That doesn't help at all. Even though it does say spell, it's physical spells, and that's not generic spell damage, so it does not affect the crown of the eyes. But the increased spell damage is nice. And so is the plus level on spell skills, because again, the Essence Ray and Contagion is a spell. So that helps out with some of the damage on these two. For our rings, we just have some general resistance rings, a little bit of some stats. This isn't a dexterity and intelligence heavy stat build, so you're going to need both. And I've got a little bit of chaos damage on this breach ring as well. So nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy there. Just get what you need. And then you could probably actually put in an original sin on this build and go full chaos, avoid some of the freezes, and yeah, probably do a lot more damage. But that's neither here or there. It's not this build. So we also rock a Doldre's Tenure, which allows us to get 100% increased spell damage at the cost of cast speed. But we're not casting, we're attacking. So this is just flat 100% increased damage to our gear. So we can see right now our Glacial Lance at 8.2, take that off 6.7, quite a big DPS boost on some level 30 unique gloves that you get very early. For the long belt, life, strength, resistances, nothing too fancy. But boots, movement speed, life, resistances, nothing too fancy. For our chest piece, we went with evasion rating, energy shield, spirit, and resistances. The spirit is important so that you can house the combat frenzy, the cast on freeze, the ghost dance, the wind dancer, all of your abilities. Herald of Plague as well, though that's kind of flex. It is nice, but it is kind of flex. Our poison doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so until we get that poison doing a lot of damage, this is okay. But for our amulet, we do spell damage, reduce some increased energy shield. Of course, we rock spirit, plus level to all projectile skills so that you can get levels to both Essence Drain, Glacial Lance, and your Spear Throw. All of those are projectile skills. So that's better than getting plus the level spell skills. Projectile skills is nice. And then we just got some resis. Now we do allocate acceleration for some increased skill speed and increased movement speed. This is flex really whatever you want on this, whatever you need on this. But I like the skill speed and the movement speed for some added damage, some added, clear ability, whatnot. So looking at the passive skill tree, again, we are a Chayula Monk here. So we take reality rending for the extra chaos damage. This is just random and whenever it doesn't show up on your stat sheet, but it's nice. You barely feel it if you do feel it. The chaos resistance, this is primarily why I did go Chayula Monk. I did rip my last character. If you watch the last Caltrops, the triple Caltrops video that I had with my Pathfinder, I mentioned that I had pretty low AHP and had pretty low chaos resistance. And of course, some volatile orbs came up when I was slowed and just wrecked me. So I decided Chayula Monk is the way to go because it gives you plus 10 to your maximum chaos resistance and your chaos resistance is doubled. So you can see, again, we have about 85% flat, 100%, 108% over cap without even really trying, which gives us a huge effective HP against chaos damage. We shouldn't really be dying by that too much more, which is nice. But anyways, this could be, Chayula Monk needs some more. We don't do any of the darkness stuff. And then, we do go ahead and just grab into the breach. Into the breach, as I mentioned, creates that little purple glow around us where we can manifest some of these remnants and then get some of our life, mana, and some extra chaos damage. So it's really nice there. And then if you take a look at the pathing is mainly just grab some of the energy shield nodes, pick up some of the freeze and cold nodes here, grab some of the evasion rating nodes. I did take this accuracy rating node just so that the glacial lance, if we take a look at its hit here, it's estimated a chance to hit. It does show 100, 186. This is at 9 meters, but without these nodes here, at 5 meters, we even had about we had about 1 in 4 chance to miss, about 75% chance to hit there, which, felt good, but also I noticed, stuff was actually not hitting. And so I did want to increase that. This accuracy helps because it scales off the intelligence. This node we can actually take spell damage while wielding, a melee weapon, Spellblade, very nice. Some more energy shields, some more evasion rating. The spell damage node helps without any without any added negatives like the reduced cast speed since we're using an attack. And then I do take these nodes up here as well to increase spell damage while on full energy shield and increased energy shield from equipped focus. So these are actually pretty nice. Extra chaos damage here. And then we come along, we grab some of the more energy shield here. And then for our jewels, mainly just spell damage, energy shield, freeze, build up, whatever you can get on here. But yeah, spell damage, energy shield, and freeze build up are probably your best bets. We're like energy gain or meta skills gain energy, things like that. So again, I am only level 88, got quite a bit of ways here to go, but kind of falling out with this build just because it does lack single targets. It's a lot of fun as a Chayula Monk. We did get some pretty good effective EHP, at least for hardcore, and it does clear 15s, albeit it's pretty slow and it's just kind of a mid-tier build. But hey, it does utilize some interesting mechanics with the Spire of Ire, with some cold and with some chaos and with some poison spreads and with some essence drain contagion. So, it can feel a lot better if you did remove probably half of these energy shield nodes and took in a lot more damage nodes, in softcore. I could definitely see this build performing in softcore much better than it does perform in hardcore. But at least, hey, we're defensively pretty sound here. So that's not too bad. It's neither here or there. So anyways, again, that's the video. I don't really care for your like or subscribe. Again, I'm just kind of showing off what I'm doing in hardcore Dawn of the Hunt League, or patch, 0.2 point whatever we're on right now. But we are having a lot of fun with it. And again, I am going to be releasing a video probably on my Smithic Atava quarterstaff, fire spell on hit. We're going to figure that one out. So anyways, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and yeah, we'll see you, whatever.